Thank you so much for the likes. Hello everyone, hurry up to join the city rim guys. Making the like and subscribing to the channel. Bravel, how are you dear Bravel? Thank you so much for joining to the city rim. Adam, how are you dear Adam? Thank you so much for your joining. Every respected member have to write your name in the chat guys. Where are you from watching the screen? Rosen, I'm writing your name my dear. Thank you so much for your joining. Hurry up guys. Browell, how are you dear Browell? Thank you so much for joining to City Rim dear Browell. Rosen, how are you Rosen? Thank you so much for your joining. Rosen is our first member for the today's last session guys. Adam, how are you dear Adam? Thank you so much for your joining dear Adam. Celine, how are you dear Celine? Thank you so much for your joining dear Celine. Starliza, how are you Starliza? Where are you from watching dear Starliza? Lizia, thank you so much for joining to Citrine. Zadan, how are you dear Zadan? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine Zadan. Please guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Akesh, how are you dear Akesh? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine Akesh. How are you dear Akesh? Thank you so much for your joining to Citrine dear Akesh. Please guys, don't spam on the screen guys. Ariel, how are you dear Ariel? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine dear Ariel. Making the like and subscribing to the channel. Nalin, how are you dear Nalin? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine dear Nalin. Edit, how are you dear Edit? Thank you so much for your joining Edit. Rio, how are you dear Rio? Thank you so much for joining. Hello Fox, how are you Fox Celine? Thank you so much for your joining to Citrine. Rivoni, how are you dear Rivoni? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine. Hammer, how are you dear Hammer? Thank you so much for your joining to Citrine Hammer. How are you Hammer? Thank you so much for your joining my dear. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Amber, how are you Amber? Thank you so much for your joining Amber. How are you Amber? Thank you so much for your joining. I send gift if you Scarlett. How are you Scarlett? Thank you so much for joining to the screen Scarlett. You have to send me a gift Scarlett. Thank you so much for your joining dear Scarlett. Aston, how are you dear Aston? Thank you so much for your joining. Scarlett, I write your name my dear. Mia, how are you Mia? Thank you so much for your joining Mia. Thank you for the pop. Thank you, Steven. Thank you. Steven, you have to send me a laughing disco, my dear. Steven, please send me a laughing disco. Jamira, how are you, Jamira? Thank you so much for joining to us at Rim Jamira. How are you, Jamira? Elizabeth, how are you, dear Elizabeth? Thank you so much for your joining to stream, Elizabeth. Please, guys, send a laughing disco, guys. Carol, how are you, Carlos? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Carlos. Manu, how are you, dear Manu? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Manu. Manu Zoe, thank you. Khadija, how are you, Khadija? Thank you so much for your joining, Khadija. Please send me a laughing disco, guys. Kenya, how are you, dear Kenya? Thank you so much for your joining, Kenya. Please, guys, send the laughing disco. Salom, how are you, Salom? Thank you so much for your joining, Salom. Please, guys, don't spam. Just every single person have to write a single name. Salom, thank you so much for your joining. Kale, write your name, Kale. How are you, dear Kale? Thank you so much for your joining, Kale. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat. Kalia, how are you, dear Kalia? Thank you so much for your joining. Emma, how are you, dear Emma? Thank you so much for your joining, Emma. Hurry up, guys. Lily, how are you, dear Lily? Thank you so much for your joining, Lily. Koki, how are you, dear Koki? Thank you so much for your joining, Koki. Kaden, how are you, dear Kaden? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Kaden. Larissa, how are you, dear Larissa? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Larissa. Shade, how are you, dear Shade? Thank you so much for your joining, Shade. Lily, I write your name, Lily. Arista, how are you, dear Arista? Thank you so much for your joining, Arista. Ahel, how are you, dear Ahel? Thank you so much for joining to stream. Gorady, how are you, dear Gorady? Thank you so much for your joining, Gorady. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, guys. Acelia, how are you, dear Acelia? Thank you so much for joining. Angel, how are you, dear Angel? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Angel. Padero, how are you, dear Padero? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Padero. Salma, how are you, dear Salma? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Salma. Hi, Zumara, how are you, Zumara? Jasmine, how are you, Jasmine? Thank you so much for your joining, Jasmine. And love of love and respect for your joining. Jasmine, I write your name, my dear. Faraday, how are you, dear Faraday? Thank you so much for your joining, Faraday. Samuel, how are you, dear Samuel? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Samuel. Hurry up, guys, write your name in the chat. Leora, how are you, dear Leora? Thank you so much for your joining, Leora. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Leos, how are you, Leos? Thank you so much for your joining, Leos. Astron, I write your name, Astron. In happen, how are you, dear? In happen, thank you so much for joining to stream. In happen. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Patera, how are you, Patera? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Patera. Faith, how are you, dear Faith? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Faith. Revza, hi, dear, hi. Revza, how are you, dear Revza? Thank you so much for joining to stream. Shanwaz, how are you, Shanwaz? Thank you so much for your joining. Sophia, how are you, Sophia? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Sophia. Adim, how are you, Adim? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Adim. Ava, how are you, dear Ava? Thank you so much for joining, Ava. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys. Zamresh, how are you, Zamresh? How are you, Zamresh? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Zamresh. Santiago, how are you, Santiago? Thank you so much for joining. Oliver, how are you, Oliver? Thank you so much for your joining, Oliver. Rose, how are you, dear Rose? Thank you so much for your joining to stream. Rish, how are you, Rish? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Rish. Marinar, how are you, Marinar? Thank you so much for your joining, Marinar. Aries, how are you, Aries? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Aries. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Rose, how are you, dear Rose? Thank you so much for your joining. Anaya, how are you, dear Anaya? Thank you so much for your joining. Ali, how are you, dear Ali? Thank you so much for your joining, Ali. How are you, Ali? Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect. Marina, how are you, dear Marina? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Marina. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Lisa, how are you, dear Lisa? Thank you so much for your joining. Let's see, Lisa. Nalon, how are you, Nalon? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Nalon. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Alex, thank you so much for your subscribing, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Hurry up, guys. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys. Making the like and subscribing to the channel. Jesu, how are you, Jesu? Thank you so much for your joining. Making the like and subscribing to the channel. Yeah, guys, every single person have to write your name in the chat. Jesu, I write your name, Jesu. Thank you so much for your joining, my dear. Mayoro, how are you, Mayoro? Thank you so much for joining to Sitarim, Mayoro. Pidhi, how are you, Pidhi? Thank you so much for your joining. Please, guys, send the laughing disco, do the super chat, guys. Thank you so much for joining to Sitarim. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Yarina, how are you, Yarima? Thank you so much for your joining, Yarima, and lot of love and respect for your joining. Belme, how are you, dear Belme? Please don't spam, guys. Please don't spam. Just you should have to write your name in the chat, guys. You will be got time out if you have to spam on the screen. Belme, how are you, Belme? Thank you so much for joining. Talent, how are you, dear Talent? Thank you so much for your joining, Talent. Abigail, how are you, dear Abigail? Thank you so much for joining to Sitarim, Abigail. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Addy, how are you, dear Addy? Thank you so much for your joining, Addy. How are you, dear Addy? Thank you so much for your joining to Sitarim, dear Addy. Malini, how are you, Malini? Thank you so much for joining to Sitarim, dear Malini. A lot of love and respect for you joining, Malini. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys. Yeah, guys, every single person have to write your name in the chat. Thank you so much for joining my Sitarim. Kevin. Thank you so much for joining, dear Kevin. How are you, dear Kevin? Thank you so much for your joining, Kevin. Chani, how are you, dear Chani? Thank you so much for your joining to Sitarim, dear Chani. Hurry up, guys, to join the Sitarim, guys, making a like and subscribing to the channel. Chani, thank you so much for joining. Clara, how are you, Clara? Thank you so much for joining to Sitarim, dear Clara. Inde, how are you, dear Inde? Thank you so much for your joining to Sitarim, dear Inde. Hurry up, guys, to join this team. Inde, I write your name, my love. Every single person have to write your name in the chat. Thank you. Welcome, my dear. Welcome. Please, guys, make a small donation of the super chat, guys. Welcome, my dear. Evan, how are you, Evan? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Evan. Please, guys, make a small donation of the super chat, guys, for making my day. Thank you so much for your joining. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Hello, dear. Hello, Ruby. Ari, how are you, Ari? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Ari. Yeah, guys, do the super chat, send the laughing disco to making the like and subscribing to the channel. Aria, how are you, dear Aria? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Aria. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Aria, I write your name, my lovely brother. Hurry up, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Mariam, how are you, dear Mariam? Thank you so much for your joining, Mariam. How are you, dear Mariam? Every single person to write your name in the chat, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Samuel, how are you, dear Samuel? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Samuel. Patrick, how are you, Patrick? How are you, dear Patrick? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Patrick. Malina, how are you, dear Malina? Thank you so much for your joining, Malina. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, making a like and subscribing to the channel. Amy, how are you, dear Amy? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Amy. A lot of love and respect for your joining, dear Amy. Dharmaj, how are you, Dharmaj? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Dharmaj. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys. And a lot of love and respect for your joining. It's a request from every single person to write your name in the chat, drop the flag of your country, guys. Have to love and respect for your joining to the stream, guys. Jonah, how are you, Jonah? Thank you so much for your joining, Jonah. How are you, dear Jonah? Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Lala, how are you, dear Lala? Thank you so much, dear Lala. Where are you from watching, dear Jonah? Thank you so much for joining my stream. Please, guys, someone do the super chat, guys. Click on my goal. Yeah, guys, click on my goal to do the super chat, guys. Charlie, how are you, Charlie? Thank you so much for your joining. Oh, that's great. Leland, how are you, dear Leland? Thank you so much for your joining, Leland. How are you, dear Leland? Leland from Egypt. Thank you so much for watching from Egypt, dear Leland. Thank you. Ioni, Charlie, I write your name on there. Oh, that's great, Ioni. How are you, dear Ioni? Thank you so much for your joining, Ioni. Hurry up, guys. To write your name in the chat. Leland, can you do the super chat, my dear? You are from watching Egypt. Egypt people have to do super chat, yeah. Aronia, Shani from Aronia. Shani, how are you, dear Shani? India, how are you, India? Where are you from watching, dear India? Thank you so much for your joining, India. India, how are you, dear India? Thank you so much for joining to Terrain. Lydia, how are you, dear Lydia? Lydia, where are you from watching, dear Lydia? How are you, dear Lydia? A lot of love and respect for you joining, dear Lydia. Amelia, how are you, dear Amelia? Thank you so much for joining, Amelia. Where are you from watching, dear Amelia? Someone do a super chat, guys. Sophia, how are you, dear Sophia? Thank you so much for joining, Sophia. How are you, dear Sophia? Thank you so much for joining to Terrain. Yolini, how are you, Yolini? Thank you so much for joining to Terrain. Hurry up, guys. Kevin, how are you, dear Kevin? Thank you so much for joining to Terrain, dear Kevin. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat. Adam, how are you, dear Adam? Thank you so much for your joining, Adam. Alize, how are you, dear Alize? Thank you so much for your joining, Alize. How are you, dear Alize? Thank you so much for your joining. Eden, I write your name, Eden. Where are you from watching, dear Eden? I write your name, my dear. Thank you so much for your joining, making the like, and subscribing to the channel. Alim, how are you, dear Alim? Thank you so much for your joining to stream, dear Alim. Hurry up, guys, to making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for your joining, guys. I want to know from every single person, where are you from watching the screen, guys? Yeah, guys, have to write your name in the chat. Lara, how are you, dear Lara? Thank you so much for your joining, Lara. How are you, dear Lara? Hurry up, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Hello, Lara. How are you, Lara? Where are you from watching, Lara? Alice, how are you, dear Alice? Thank you so much for your joining to stream, dear Alice. A lot of love and respect. Thank you, Jolene, Jalini. Thank you, Jolene. How are you, dear Jalini? Where are you from watching, my lovely brother? No speak English, oh my god. Jalini, how are you, Jalini? Thank you so much for joining, Jalini. Thank you, Noha. How are you, Noha? Jalini, can you do a laughing disco? Can you send a laughing disco, my lovely brother? You have to send only one laughing disco for the appreciation of my stream, my dear. Yeah, I have just only one laughing disco. No, I cannot there. You do a super chat. You will be showing the money icon. You will be showing the money icon. Do a super chat. Send the gift. Yeah. I'm good. I don't have enough coin to send. Oliver, how are you, Oliver? Can you play some more? Any more? Yeah. Oliver, how are you, Oliver? Thank you so much for your joining, Oliver. Yeah, you have to play a one more 6-7. One more 6-7. Thank you so much for the 6-7. If you can easily, my dear, you have to play a one more 6-7. Every single person have to write your name in the chat, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for you, Johnny. How ready you? I have to read. I have to read all. I have to read all, my dear. I have to read all the comment. Jinan, how are you, Jinan? Thank you so much for your joining, Jinan. How are you, Jinan? Please, guys, someone has to send a one more laughing disco, guys. Any single person who can send a laughing disco out of a low state for the appreciation, guys. Thank you so much for your joining. Yeah, guys, every single person have to write your name in the chat. Jania, how are you, Jania? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Jania. How are you, Jania? Where are you from watching, dear Jania? Hurry up, guys. Wafa, you are from Egypt. Asil, how are you, Asil? Thank you so much for your joining, Asil. How are you, dear Asil? Leza, how are you, dear Leza? Thank you so much for your joining, Leza. How are you, Leza? Leza, how are you, dear Leza? Kenya, how are you, dear Kenya? Thank you so much for joining. Mina, how are you, Mina? Thank you so much for joining, Mina. Mina, I write your name pretty, Mina. Mia, how are you, dear Mia? Thank you so much for your joining, Mia. Every respected member have to write your name in the chat, guys. A lot of love and respect. Alma, how are you, pretty Alma? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Alma. A lot of love and respect for you joining. Asin, how are you, Asin? Alma, I write your name aloud. Asin, how are you, Asin? Thank you so much for your joining. Leona, how are you, Leona? Thank you so much for your joining, Leona. Hi there, hi Talha, how are you, brother Talha? Thank you so much for your joining. Please, guys, click on the money icon, do a super chat, guys. Yeah, small donation. Have to make a small donation, guys. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat, guys. Danara, how are you, Danara? Thank you so much for your joining, Danara. How are you, Danara? Hurry up, guys, making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for your joining. Yeah, guys, I have to love and respect. Where are you from watching, dear Danara? Thank you so much for you joining my stream, my dear. Every respected member have to write your name in the chat. How many people is watching from US, Brazil, Canada, UK? Just you have to comment, guys. Or France, yeah. Canadian, American, Lara, how are you, Lara? Canadian, American, yeah, and also England. Thank you from watching from England. Thank you. Canadian. I have to love when Faith. Thank you, Faith. I have love with the people for those who are watching from USA, from Brazil, from Canada, yeah, from UK, from France. Gabriel, how are you, Gabriel? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine, Gabriel. Gabriel, that's a pump, Gabriela. Assad, Danella, can you do a super chat, my dear? Arsen a laughing disco. You have collect on the money icon to do a super chat, yeah. Elizabeth, how are you, Elizabeth? Thank you so much for joining. How many people are watching from US, guys? USA, from UK. Alize, how are you, dear Alize? Thank you so much for joining. Hurry up, guys, write your name in the chat. Fatih, how are you, Fatih? Sophia, how are you, dear Sophia? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Sophia. Every respected member have to write your name in the chat, guys. No, how are you, dear? No, thank you so much for your joining. No, Sophia, where are you from watching, dear Sophia? I'm from USA. Thank you, Alize. I write your name, my dear Alize. Look that. Alize, can you do the super chat? Can send the laughing disco? Any support? Yeah, you have to. Danny, how are you, Danny? You have to collect on my goal, my dear, to make only one super chat. Yeah, collect on my goal to only one super chat. Anjali, how are you, Anjali? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine, Anjali. Aline, how are you, dear Aline? Thank you so much for your joining, Aline. How are you, dear Aline? Hurry up, guys. So write your name in the chat. Dominic, how are you, Dominic? Thank you so much for joining to Citrine, Dominic. Jaffer, how are you, Jaffer? Thank you so much for joining, Jaffer. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat. Jean, how are you, dear Jean? Thank you so much for your joining, Jean. Ollie, how are you, dear Ollie? Thank you so much for your joining, Ollie. Brendan, how are you, dear Brendan? Thank you so much for your joining. Plus, it's a ring, Brendan. Emma, how are you, dear Emma? Emma, what's up, Emma? Where are you from watching, Emma? Thank you so much. Walaikum salam. How are you, dear Suleiman? Annie, how are you, dear Anna? Annie, thank you so much for your joining to such a room, dear Annie. A lot of love and respect. How are you, dear Annie? Ali, how are you, dear Ali? Valeria, Valeria. Ali, I read your name, Ali. Valeria. Oh, you are from watching from USA, United States. Valerie, where are you from watching, dear Valerie? Can you do the super chat, my dear? Asma, how are you, pretty Asma? Mila, how are you, dear Mila? Thank you so much for joining. Mila, where are you from watching, Mila? Thank you. Valerie, I write your name, Valerie. Looks that, my dear. To write your name in the chat. Hi, Valerie. Valerie, where are you from watching, Valerie? Patchery, where are you from watching, Patchery? Thank you so much for joining. Asma, where are you from watching, Asma? Yulan, USA. Oh, USA. Where from USA, my dear? Thank you so much for watching. Santi, how are you, dear Santi? Thank you so much for your joining. Where from USA? US people should have to donate on the screen, guys. Collect on my goal to do a super chat. Vina, where are you from watching, dear Vina? Yeah, you have and Jaffe, how are you, Jaffe? Asma from Italy. Oh, Asma from Italy. Asma, are you Muslim? Jaffe, how many are you all? Jaffe, where are you from watching, dear Jaffe? Leo P, yeah, Muslim. That's great. Thank you so much from Italy. Thank you. Asma, can you do the super chat on my stream, dear sister? Alison, how are you, dear Alison? Thank you, Alison. Now I am a new follower. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, sister. Thank you. Asma, sister. Rocco, how are you, Rocco? Asma, sister, you have to make a donation, sister. You make a small donation on my stream. You make a small donation. Rocco, welcome Rocco. Where are you from watching, Rocco? Hurry up guys to write your name in the chat. Yale, how are you dear Yale? Thank you so much for joining to stream. Yale, how are you Yale? You are from Italy. Leo, how are you Leo? Thank you so much for watching Leo. Hurry up guys, write your name in the chat guys, making a like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for you joining. Hurry up guys, a lot of love and respect for you joining. Keep sharing guys. Only have to US people. How many people are watching from USA right now guys? Yeah, how many people are watching from USA? Anis, how are you Anis? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Anis. Loy, how are you dear Loy? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Loy. Loy, I write your name there. How many people are watching from USA right now guys? Any person is watching from USA, just drop the flag. I'm from Pakistan, Asma sister. Asma sister, you have to make a donation. Jahira, how are you Jahira? Jahira, where are you from watching, dear Jahira? Thank you so much for watching, dear Jahira. Jordan, how are you dear Jordan? You will be showing a money icon. Click on the money icon. I will be showing the icon of the super chat. You have to do a super chat by my goal. Yeah, you have to make a donation super chat. Jordan, I'm good Jordan. Where are you from watching, dear Jordan? Thank you so much for joining to stream. Anybody can do a super chat to show the Asma how to do a super chat. Anybody? Lisa, how are you Lisa? Angel, I have battery at 6-7. Angel, how are you Angel? Amy, how are you Amy? Thank you so much for your joining, Amy. How are you Amy? Olivia, how are you Olivia? Oh, you are from Panama, that's great. Olivia, how are you dear Olivia? Malana, how are you Malana? Thank you so much for your joining, Malana. Jonah, how are you, Jonah? Kale, how are you, dear Kale? Thank you so much for your joining, Kale. Amira, how are you, dear Amira? I write your name, dear Amira. Francisco, how are you, Francisco? Thank you so much for joining to stream. Lassie, how are you, dear Lassie? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Lassie. Abstain, how are you, dear Abstain? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Abstain. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat, guys. Hurry up, guys. I have to sleep because I have an interview at 4 a.m. Yeah, then. Can you do a super chat, my dear Asma? Asma, you have to do a super chat, Asma? Okay, dear. Holly, how are you, dear Holly? Thank you. Ionio, how are you, Ionio? Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat. Ireno, how are you, dear Ireno? Hi, Ireno. Bellamy, how are you, dear Bellamy? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Bellamy. Hurry up, guys. Write your name in the chat, guys. Making the like and subscribing to the channel. A lot of love and respect for you joining. Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Tanya, how are you, Tanya? How are you, dear Tanya? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Tanya. Noor, how are you, dear Noor? Saturn, how are you, Saturn? Petra, how are you, Petra? Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Danal, how are you, Danal? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Danal. Violeta, how are you, dear Violeta? Thank you so much for you joining, Violeta. Christy, how are you, Christy? Anybody can do a super chat, guys. Reham, how are you, dear Reham? Azrael, how are you, Azrael? Thank you so much for joining, Azrael. Oh, thank you, Taris. Thank you so much. Taris, can you send a big gift, pretty Taris? Can you send a big gift, mother? Thank you for the star, Taris. Pretty Taris, can you send a big gift, dear? Thank you, my lovely sister. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Taurus. Thank you so much. Thank you, my lovely sister. Taurus and Miwa. How are you, Miwa? Thank you, Miwa. Please, guys, send Miwa and Taurus can play some more or send a laughing disco. You can manage. Can you send a laughing disco? Manu, how are you, dear Manu? Terrace and Mira, can you send a laughing disco manner? Can you send a laughing disco manner? Thank you. Yes, anybody have to send only one laughing disco, guys. Only one laughing disco to make my day. I will stop if you put Ziva. How are you, Ziva? Thank you, Ziva, for joining my stream, dear Ziva. Eden, how are you, dear Eden? Anybody can send the laughing disco, guys. I have only one laughing disco, guys. Any superhero can send a one laughing disco or do a super chat. Ari, how are you, dear Ari? Leos, how are you, dear Leos? Thank you so much for joining, Leos. Jenny, how are you, dear Jenny? Where are you from watching, dear Jenny? Niher, how are you, Niher? Thank you. Osmar, how are you, Osmar? Thank you so much for joining, Osmar. Where are you from watching, dear Osmar? Danala, where are you from watching, Danala? Thank you so much for your joining, my dear Danala. Danala, where are you from watching, Danala? Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat. Oliver, how are you, Oliver? Kobe, how are you, dear Kobe? Yuna, how are you? And Dinalar, I write your name, my dear Dinalar. Oliver, I write it. Wasim, how are you, Wasim? Yuna, how are you, Yuna? Thank you so much for joining, Yuna. Amelia, how are you, Amelia? Thank you so much for joining to stream, Amelia. How are you, dear Amelia? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Amelia. Bali, how are you, dear Bali? Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Bali. Please, guys, someone do a super chat, guys. Thank you. Someone do a super chat, guys. Click on the money icon to do a super chat by the goal to help me to completing my goal, guys. Yeah, there you will be showing the goal, guys. Yeah, you will be showing a goal, guys. Click on the goal. Try to complete my goal, guys. Yeah. Hello, Lero Manol. Thank you so much for joining to stream, Manol. Hello, Lauren. Thank you so much for joining to stream, dear Lauren. Yumna, how are you, dear Yumna? Thank you so much for your joining, dear Yumna. A lot of love and respect for you joining. Thank you. Welcome, my dear Lorenzo. I write your name, my dear. Lorenzo, I write your name, my dear. Please, guys, click on the money icon to do a super chat, guys. Yeah, to do a super chat, guys. To do a super chat. Mia, how are you, dear Mia? Hurry up, guys, to write your name in the chat, making the like and subscribing to the channel. Shawan, how are you, Shawan?